Hello everyone and welcome to a new video of your Polyglot Academy. Now today I'm continuing the series on how to learn German up to a B1 level with 1,000 words, and I'm going to continue with lesson number 4, so basically the words from 301 to 400. So without further ado, let's continue. First word is der Mond, which means moon. Use an example. Der Mond scheint hell. The moon shines brightly. The next word is die Insel, which means island. Griechenland hat viele Inseln. Greece has many islands. Now we have der Fuß, which means foot, and use an example. Mein Fuß tut weh, my foot hurts. Now we have das System, which means system. Das System funktioniert gut. The system works well. Following on, we have beschäftigt, which means busy. Ist heute sehr beschäftigt. He is very busy today. Now we have die Prüfung, which means test or exam. Use an example. Morgen habe ich eine Prüfung. I have a test tomorrow. Now we have der Rekord, which means record. Hat einen neuen Rekord gebrochen. He broke a new record. Following on, we have das Boot, which means boat. Das Boot liegt am Ufer. The boat is at the shore. Now we have gemeinsam, which means common or together. Wir haben ein gemeinsames Ziel. We have a common goal. Now we have möglich, which means possible. Alles ist möglich. Everything is possible. The next word is das Flugzeug, which means plane. Das Flugzeug startet bald. The plane takes off soon. The next one is statt, which means instead or simply stead. Wir nehmen Tee statt Kaffee. We take tea instead of coffee. Now we have trocken, which means dry. Das Handtuch ist trocken. The towel is dry. Now word 314 is das Wunder, which means wonder or miracle. Es war ein echtes Wunder. It was a real wonder. Now we have lachen, which means to laugh. Sie lacht, weil sie den Witz lustig fand. She's laughing because she found the joke funny. The next word is tausend, which means 1,000. Hat 1,000 Bücher. He has 1,000 books. Now we have vor, which in this case means ago or before in a time sense. Das war vor einem Jahr. That was a year ago. Following on, we have überprüfen, which means to check. Use an example. Bitte überprüfe die Antwort. Please check the answer. Now we have das Spiel, which means game. Das Spiel beginnt jetzt. The game starts now. Following on, we have die Form, which means shape or form. Die Wolke hat eine runde Form. The cloud has a round shape. Gleichsetzen is the next word and it means to equate. Man darf Geld nicht mit Glück gleichsetzen. One must not equate money with happiness. Now we have die Wärme, which means heat. Die Sonne gibt Wärme. The sun gives heat. Der Schnee means snow. Im Winter fällt Schnee. Snow falls in winter. Now we have bringen, which means to bring. Kannst du mir Wasser bringen? Can you bring me water? Now we have ja, which means yes. Ja, ich verstehe. Yes, I understand. Next word is entfernt, which means distant or remote. Das Dorf ist sehr entfernt. The village is very distant. Now we have der Osten, which means east. Use an example. Die Sonne geht im Osten auf. The sun rises in the east. Now we have the verb malen, which means to paint. Malt ein Bild. He paints a picture. Now we have die Sprache, which means language. Deutsch ist eine schöne Sprache. German is a beautiful language. Next up we have unter, which means among. Wir sitzen unter Freunden. We sit among friends. Now we have die Einheit, which means unit. Die Klasse arbeitet als eine Einheit. The class works as one unit. Following on, we have fliegen, which means to fly. Vögel können fliegen. Birds can fly. Now, word 333, we have fallen, which means to fall. Im Herbst fallen die Blätter. In autumn, the leaves fall. Following on, we have führen, which means to lead. And here's an example. Führt die Gruppe. He leads the group. Now we have schreien, which means to scream. Das Kind schreit, weil es Angst hat. The child is screaming because he's scared. Now we have dunkel, which means dark. Das Zimmer ist dunkel. The room is dark. Die Maschine, which means machine. Die Maschine funktioniert gut. The machine works well. Die Note is the next word and it means note or grade. Schreibt eine Note. Schrieb eine Note. He wrote a note. Now we have warten, which means to wait, and here's an example. Bitte warte hier. Please wait here. Now we have der Plan, which means plan, and here's an example. Der Plan ist fertig. The plan is ready. Die Abbildung means figure or illustration. Die Abbildung zeigt ein Haus. The figure shows a house. Now we have der Stern, which means star, and here's an example. Heute sieht man viele Sterne. Today you can see many stars. Now you have der Kasten, which means box, and here's an example. Der Kasten ist leer. The box is empty. Das Feld means the field. Die Kühe stehen auf dem Feld. The cows stand in the field. Now we have richtig, which means correct. Deine Antwort ist richtig. Your answer is correct. Now we have fähig, which means able. Here's an example. Er ist zu großen Dingen fähig. He is able to do great things. Next up, we have der Antrieb, which means drive. Das Auto hat einen starken Antrieb. The car has a strong drive. Following up, we have enthalten, which means to contain. Wasser enthält Sauerstoff. Water contains oxygen. Now we have lehren, which means to teach, and here's an example. Sie lehrt Mathematik. She teaches mathematics. Now we have die Woche, which means week, and here's an example. Eine Woche hat 7 Tage. A week has 7 days. Following on, we have das Finale, which means the final. Das Finale beginnt morgen. The final starts tomorrow. Now we have grün, which means green. Here's an example. Das Gras ist grün. The grass is green. Schnell means quick or fast. Der Zug ist sehr schnell. The train is very fast. Entwickeln is the next verb and it means to develop. Here's an example. Kinder entwickeln sich schnell. Children develop quickly. Now we have der Ozean, which means ocean. Der Ozean ist tief. The ocean is deep. Warm means warm. Der Sommer ist warm. The summer is warm. Kostenlos means free. Das Wasser ist kostenlos. The water is free. The next word is die Minute and it means minute. Warte eine Minute. Wait a minute. Now we have stark, which means strong. Er ist stark. He is strong. Next up we have besonders, which means special. Heute ist ein besonderer Tag. Today is a special day. Next up we have der Geist, which means mind or spirit. Here's an example. Der Geist ist frei. The mind is free. Now we have hinter, which means behind. Die Katze ist hinter dem Tisch. The cat is behind the table. Now we have klar, which means clear. Das Wasser ist klar. The water is clear. Now we have der Schwanz, which means tail. And here's an example. Der Hund hat einen langen Schwanz. The dog has a long tail. Now we have produzieren, which means to produce. And here's an example. Die Fabrik produziert Schuhe. The factory produces shoes. Die Tatsache means the fact. Es ist eine Tatsache. It is a fact. Now we have der Raum, which means space or room. Es gibt keinen Raum hier. There is no space here. Now we got die Stunde, which means hour or lesson. Die Stunde ist vorbei. The lesson is over. Now we have besser, which means better. Mir geht es besser. I feel better. Now next word, 370, we have wahr, which means true. Die Geschichte ist wahr. The story is true. Now we got merken, which means to remember or to notice, and here's an example. Ich kann mir den Namen merken. I can remember the name. Now we have der Schritt, which means step, and here's an example. Mach einen Schritt nach vorn. Take a step forward. Now we have früh, which means early. Ich bin früh aufgestanden. I got up early. The next word is fünf, which means 5, and here's an example. 5 Kinder spielen, 5 children play. Now we got der Westen, which means west. And here's an example. Die Sonne geht im Westen unter. The sun sets in the west. Now we got der Boden, which means ground or floor. Der Boden ist nass. The ground is wet. The next word is das Interesse, and it means the interest. Ich habe Interesse an Geschichte. I have an interest in history. Now we have erreichen, which means to reach. Wir können das Ziel erreichen. We can reach the goal. Now we have singen, which means to sing. Lots of verbs in this lesson. Sie singen ein Lied. They sing a song. Zu hören, which means to listen carefully. Bitte hör mir zu. Please listen to me. Now we have sechs, which means six. 6 Studenten fehlen. 6 students are missing. Now we have die Tabelle, which means table. As a chart, die Tabelle zeigt die Zahlen, the table shows the numbers. Now we have die Reise, which means travel or trip, and here's an example. Die Reise war lang, the trip was long. Now we have weniger, which means less, and the examples are going to be ich habe weniger Zeit, I have less time. Now we have der Morgen, which means morning, and here's an example. Heute Morgen war es kalt. This morning it was cold. The next word is 10, which means 10. Hat 10 Freunde. He has 10 friends. Now we have einfach, which means simple or easy. Die Aufgabe ist einfach. The task is simple. Next word is mehrere, which means several, and here's an example. Mehrere Leute warten draußen. Several people are waiting outside. The next word is der Krieg, which means war, and here's an example. Der Krieg dauerte viele Jahre. The war lasted many years. Now we have legen, which means to lay or to put. An example is going to be leg das Buch auf den Tisch. Lay the book on the table. Gegen, which means against. Sie spielt gegen ihn. She plays against him. Das Muster, which means the pattern. Das Kleid hat ein schönes Muster. The dress has a nice pattern. Das Zentrum, which means the center. Das Geschäft liegt im Zentrum. The shop is in the center. Now we have die Liebe, which means the love. Liebe ist wichtig. Love is important. Now we have die Person, which means the person. Jede Person ist anders. Every person is different. Das Geld, which means the money. Geld allein macht nicht glücklich. Money alone does not bring happiness. Dienen, which means to serve, is the next word. Dient seinem Land. He serves his country. Now we have erscheinen, which means to appear. Am Himmel erschien ein Stern. A star appeared in the sky. Now word 399 is going to be die Karte, which means map or card. Schaut auf die Karte. He looks at the map. And now finally, the last word for today, der Regen, which means the rain. So here's an example. Der Regen fällt stark. The rain is falling heavily. So this was it for today. I hope that you could learn some new words, and I'm also glad that I could teach you them. If you have any questions or whatsoever, feel free to write them in the comments as well as wishes. I will continue these playlists. We still have 6 lessons that we have to complete, but in a matter of a few days I will upload each one of them. And other than that, as always, thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or whatsoever, feel free to write them in the comments or write me an email. And as always, have a nice day and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.